Well, thank you. This is my first one of these, so bear with me. I've got a lot to get through, so I'm going to talk a little bit like an auctioneer here. So we'll get right to the meat of it to start. My total visitor hours as of beginning of March were 5,941. I've brought over 1,000 people to the ranch, and since I had a couple of groups visit while I was out of town, I've probably broken 6,000 hours at this point, so I feel pretty good about that. I have broken it down into work and education hours. Work would be anytime someone is contributing to a research project, or they're pulling fence, or they're pulling weeds, they're doing something like that. And then education would be if I have summer camps coming down, or often younger groups where I'm taking them out, teaching them basic ecology, or teaching them the track, or something like that. So work hours, we've got over 1,700 work hours. So if we paid all of these people $12 an hour to do whatever they were doing, you're looking at over $20,000 of donated labor by the Missoula community. So thank you, Missoula. Education hours, we've got over 4,000 hours in education hours. And so this is my breakdown. I'm definitely heavy towards education, and I have some ideas on balancing that out a little bit, make it a little bit more of an even split in the future. So community partners. So far, I have coordinated with 19 local agencies. These are those local agencies. You can give that a quick once-over while I tell you that I'm not going to read them to you. Recruitment. Sorry, Catherine. Whoops. The Volunteer Fair is huge for me, as well as talking to classes on campus. The Volunteer Fair puts me in direct contact with the student population on campus. I get a lot of emails that way. You know, I send out a newsletter every month, and this is the way I get a lot of the contacts for that. Classes are another huge one. I've been invited into several classes that have service learning components. Those students need hours. We can fulfill those hours for them. They get to come down to the ranch, contribute to a project. It's a win for everybody. Networking with local agencies has been really helpful as well, and I'm presenting at group meetings, particularly like student groups like University of Montana Wilderness Association and groups like that like to come out and do service work. And I send a newsletter out every month that, as of right now, reaches 468 people each month. And our open rates are actually pretty good. So industry average for open rate is about 19%, which seems pretty low. And my lowest is somewhere around 29%, and typically in the fall, which is when I see the best turnout for outings, I'm getting almost 50% open rates on newsletters. So people are reading that. So what do we do exactly? I'm trying to connect volunteers with projects where there's a like short-term addition of labor can really photo credit to Noah. That was a selfie. Yeah. So where the short-term addition of labor can complete or greatly contribute to a project. So researchers, please keep this in mind with your projects. If you have something where bringing down a group of volunteers for a Saturday or 2 Saturdays, or focusing a month's worth of volunteer outings on that project, or a season's worth, if that would be a benefit to you, then please let me know, because I'd gladly make that the focus of what I'm doing and advertise that and try to recruit people for your projects. So Dan and I we tapped into that with seeding a little bit in the fall, and we'll do more of that this next month. So we removed a lot of fence. Fence is great because you see what you've done at the end of the day. It's hard work, but it's not super hard. You can't mess it up. And at the end of the day, everybody feels really good because you can look back over what you've done, and you've cleared the landscape. It's great for the wildlife. Everyone's happy. So we've done lots of fence here, there, and everywhere. At this point, fence is getting really hard to find. So it's in like really steep draws or way up on Baldy or whatever. So it felt like we pulled a lot of fence, and then I added up all the totals. And we took out over 6 miles, which I guess is all right. I should say from here to here, we just removed posts. And when we're doing that, we're cutting almost all the posts, and we're leaving raptor perches, and then we're stacking the rest for habitat structures for mammals. And this little stretch here was a combined effort of some volunteers and last year's summer interns. But here we are. So this was crazy steep, and that was crazy steep, but good effort. Weed removal. So we've hit Woodchuck Creek and Tongue Creek. We hit 43 acres of Houndstongue, and we'll return to continue to try to knock those populations down. Seed dispersal. We were in Lower Tongue Creek and Lower Sheep Camp last fall. We did hear in yesterday's presentations that the seeding may not be super effective, so I'd be curious to see what grew or what grows this spring. This is where we were, and this whole hillside is really degraded, so we tried to cover that and rake it in real good. So either we fed the birds and the mice, or maybe something will grow. So we seeded 19 acres. We've done some seed collection. We had a group out to do that, as well as a class day, Karen Nelson's class. And we've done some native plant walks. My thanks to Prairie for her help with that, up on Baldy and out in Whaley Draw. Try to educate people to what's around on the ranch. Raptor migration counts. We're out on the Mount Baldy site and on Lookout Ridge. This is a really popular one. People love to get out for this, particularly we'll get individuals for whom fence removal might be a little bit too burly. So I really do appreciate all the birders letting me drag people out to your sites. And then I do a lot of tours. So when you see me driving around and you wonder what I'm up to, this is probably what it is. I have agencies that will request tours. They want to come out to see what we're doing, like the 9 Mile Wildlife Group. Missoula Parks and Rec came out quite a bit. Throughout the summer, they were doing senior van tours. This group was a riot. And then we get them, just for the general public. And often people they'll email me, they'll request a tour, they want to come check out what we're doing, and they're kind of random and they eat into my schedule. So I've started just scheduling tour days, and it's way easier. And I'll say, I have one on the 25th, and then I just sign people up. Summer camps. We had a ton of summer camps come out last summer. Missoula Parks and Recreation, Missoula Writing Collaborative, we had Missoula Outdoor Learning Adventures. They came out quite a bit, and the kids absolutely loved it. So it was an opportunity. We did different things like photo camps, or they did some fishing. These guys were working on writing stories then connected to the land. And different school groups. Sussex has come out a number of times and will continue to. I'll have 2 groups out next month from Sussex. They're fantastic because they come out in a manageable group size. They own their own buses. It's wonderful. And they're so excited to be out there. They're great. MCPS has come out, but on more of and that's Missoula County Public Schools, but on more of a limited capacity. They don't own their own buses. It's really expensive for them to come out. It's challenging with the younger grades to get them out because they want to bring half the grade. So you get they're like, hey, can I bring 90 kids at a go? And then what do you do with 90 kids? And what do you do with 90 kids if it rains? Classes, we've had a lot come out. We had a rangeland ecology class come out. Something that's interesting is some of you may know we have a new neighbor on the Sapphire Ranch that just signed a 6-year lease. And they have an eye towards conservation as well. So I think we'll have a much better neighbor, which is lovely. But for a class like this one, where Walter Lujan was out talking about ways to restore rangeland, now we also have access to Sapphire Ranch. So I could take them through that fence line, bring them over, and they could see what will be an active cattle operation as well, and how that affects landscape also. So that'll be a cool teaching tool. Here's a climate studies class. Nikki Fear chatting up Bob. Bob was a champ. Thank you very much for that. Environmental studies. This is Dan Spencer's class. They came out, removed fence in Woodchuck, and they set the bar really high. And they'll be out next month as well to work on Dan's project. And then a conservation science class. This was Karen Nelson's class. Local agency field days. The Wild Rockies Field Institute came down. They gave us a full day of service work in trade for using the floodplain as a classroom for a couple of days. So that was a really good deal. They helped to remove posts and Houndstongue out of Tongue Creek. And then Erie Backcountry Medicine comes down on a pretty regular basis. They're the ones that are really loud, and sometimes people are wondering what they're doing. But they're a great organization, so I like having them. Rocky Mountain School of Photography has come down to shoot light and sunsets, which was a pretty cool day. Got a lot of shots of the bird. Montana Natural History Center has come out, and then they've come out on several occasions, and they're an organization that I really want to nurture our relationship with. I enjoy working a lot with Brian Williams, and I feel like we have like a 10,000 acre classroom and can be a really great extension of what they do. Montana Wilderness Association has come out on to a limited extent here and there. We've done some hikes and some tracking outings. Ecology Project International started coming out to do some tracking with us, and now we'll be partnering on a summer project that I'll talk more about later. And we've got Lisa and Joshua from EPI here today. And then, you know, we get the Cub Scouts and we get the Girl Scouts, and aren't they adorable? And, you know, they were out, we were doing just basic like winter ecology and tracking and following deer and coyote and whatnot, and the Girl Scouts were out pretty much just hiking around that day. And then we get into winter tracking. So this breaks into a couple of different, like a few different categories. So we get the volunteers out, and the volunteers are either, you know, education. So say we get the Cub Scouts down and teach them how to track, and it's a fun day for everybody. Or we get a UM group or a citizen group, you know, just local community folks come out, and I'll teach them how to track, or they come with some experience, and then we're going to contribute to research. So we're going looking for lions, and we're going to make maps, we're going to collect hair samples, and they're going to be a part of that research project. So they get to really contribute to what we're doing. And then this winter, in the interest of trying to expand the program that Mike was just talking about, I brought on some interns from the university as well so that we could get out into the field more and try to collect more data from the lion survey. So the tracking internship, the interns contributed 313 hours over an 11-week period. They tracked 61.2 miles over that 11 weeks. 8.56 of those miles were actually on lion tracks, so I am glad that we tracked effort as well, because otherwise it wouldn't look like we did a whole lot. 14% of the miles followed lions, so not the highest percentage, but sometimes you do go out and you don't find much. We tracked 27 days over 11 weeks. This is volunteers and interns together. And 19 of those days found lion tracks, so we had a 70% success rate, which I think is pretty good. And then the tracking app that Mike went over, thank goodness, because I was never going to do that thing justice. Mike developed a tracking app. Thankfully, he already told you all about it. The only downside that I can think of is when you're up to your waist in a snowdrift and trying to enter data, you just freeze. But otherwise, it's a fantastic tool. And I think the most exciting thing is that it'll really improve data collection generally, so that we can take an intern who's pretty green, teach them to track, give them this, turn them loose, and they're going to come back with decent data, which is fantastic. So Mike already showed you this one. We broke the ranch into 5 zones, and I'm going to show you what we came up with from the tracking. And it will look like a little bit of a mess to start, but I'm going to take it zone by zone so you'll get a better view of it. So these are our lion tracks. These are our 8.56 miles of lion tracks. And then add in the effort, and you see that we walked quite a bit. Now, one of the things that this shows us, which is great, is it shows us obviously where we've got cats and where we can get to easily, but it also shows us holes, like where we're not going. And it shows us where we can't be. So here are some of the security zones. We unfortunately had terrible snow cover in the lower areas when the interns were most active. So that was just unfortunate. So here's zone 2. So this is Whaley and Last Straw. These are our bed sites that we found. The arrows show direction, and then add in effort, and you see what we're putting into finding this. And so this is a really hot zone. Zone 3, which is kind of Upper Sheep Camp and where Tongue Creek comes in over in here. We have a kill site right here that we found. And then add in the effort as well. Zone 4, this borders the North Security Zone, and this is a really active zone all winter long. There's cats all throughout here, all around in here, and my guess is that they are spending a lot of time in that North Security Zone. Because we found tracks consistently, and they were just stacked on top of each other. And then here's zone 4 with effort included. And here's our zone 5 out in Davis Creek. Got another bed site. And we found, so early season we find more out here, late season there's less out here. It's also, it just gets kind of challenging to access after a while without skis. And then we add in our effort as well. Oops. And then this one kind of just gives you an idea of terrain, because those other slides were quite flat. So to give you an idea of what we're putting out in terms of effort, there's a lot of elevation gain and loss. It was a pretty huge improvement over the first year's efforts. And at this point, we've worked out a lot of the bugs in our system so that next winter we could bring on more interns. We'd have a better sense of exactly what we're doing and how we need to make it all work. We could really just hit the ground running and collect quite a bit more data and cover more of the ranch more consistently. So this is, I'm going to go over the summer internship from last year, some of their totals, and what it looked like, and then I'll cover how it's going to look differently as well. So the students who I'm sure you all ran into down on the ranch, there's Caitlin. They went out, so in 2012, this internship was basically the same, but was with another agency partnered with MPG. So that's the NSW portion. It was called Next Step Wilderness, and it was run through Word. They lived out in the boondocks and targeted Houndstongue pretty heavily. So this last summer, many of the students were the same students returning, and they targeted some of the same Houndstongue to try to really knock those populations down. So they covered 1.2 miles of roads out there. They were also on the front side of the ranch and cleared 27.04 acres in the north center pivot in the rock quarry area of Houndstongue. Then there was everyone's favorite job, Campion Removal. They weed whacked 8.5 acres with the utmost enthusiasm. They thought it was so great until they had to do it for a while. They loved the weed whackers. And they hand weeded quite a bit of kochia, 11.84 acres there from the front side of the ranch. This slide is a bit of a mess, so I will interpret it for you. So this map right here is kind of its own deal. There was a weevil release site right there. Otherwise, with seed collection for the summer interns, all of these species were the ones that they collected. These codes correspond to these maps to show where they were collected. These are the codes for the species, the dates of collection, and the aspects that they were collected on. Give you a minute to soak that in. They also contributed to the Wetland Restoration, so I think they enjoyed this one quite a bit. There's Lexi looking proud in a boat. They went up to the state land and brought transplanted plants down to the pond. I should say, this is what they were transplanting. Fence removal. So this was the most arduous half a mile I've ever gone after. It was in Tongue Creek, in the thick of it. Took us 2 long days in 98-degree heat. It was quite a chore, but it is gone now. It was in the heart of the elk winter range. It was the last bit that had wire on it, and it is no more. So I feel really good about getting that out of there. So we pulled everything down to here and then brought it all out to the road on the hand cart. I felt good that I could exhaust high school students. So these are our totals for the summer. The one that I didn't really already go over is the mistletoe removal. So they were off in the boondocks girdling the mistletoe trees. And they got 141 of those, and then 3 boatloads of plants. So future projects, summer 2014. We will be partnering with Ecology Project International for the summer internship. So it will look differently this year. It will run 2 groups in month-long blocks with a week break in between so we can fix the vehicle, mend tents, whatever else we need to do. Also, 6 weeks is kind of a maximum time for students to spend in each other's company before they get really sick of each other. So the 2 month-long blocks I think will work really well for maintaining morale. 50% of their time will be dedicated to service work, much like last summer, and 50% of their time will be dedicated to academic work, which will be divided into coursework with their instructors and working as interns with various researchers on the ranch. So we are working currently to recruit some really bright students who want to come in and play a part in this. So we're excited about what this will look like, and I have to thank the researchers immensely for their willingness to take these students on. In winter, I would like to increase the number of intern trackers because I feel like that worked really well so that we can cover more territory, collect more data, particularly since we've worked the bugs out of the system. And we can get folks to interpret that data, which will make Alan's life easier. And then I'd like to recruit slightly more proficient trackers so that they're not as green. It'll speed our training and it'll increase the accuracy of what we're bringing back. I'd like to bring down some more school groups. I'd like to increase my outreach to MCPS as much as I can, see what I can do to hit high schools with their block scheduling to get students down. I'd like to also increase my outreach to districts local to the ranch. I don't know what their deal is with busing, but it's got to be easier to get them there. With local agencies, I'd like to build the relationships that I already have and seek what new opportunities I can find. So really, I'm interested in working with Montana Natural History Center and others. And at the university, I'd like to look for more classes that have service learning projects attached so that we have students that want the hours and want to come down, that we can work with them. And then look for students for potential internships. So researchers, if it makes sense for you to have an intern, if you would like that, I can recruit that for you on campus. So let me know if that would be a benefit to you. And then thank you. So to Jess and Noah for their work on the internship, to Alan and Mike for letting me lend a hand with winter tracking, and everyone else on staff, because basically without your support, I would not be able to do anything. So I really, really appreciate the fact that you let me crash your work sites on a regular basis. Thank you for letting me bring strangers. And thank you for your willingness to share what you do each day. I really do appreciate it. And then I make cider too. So when I'm not out there running around in the field doing stuff, we brewed up 45 gallons of cider from the ranch this last fall in 6 flavors. So my thanks to Catherine, Bob, and Mary Rose's children for all their help, and everybody else who threw in. I hope you all enjoyed it. And next fall, I'd like to experiment with some different flavors. So hopefully we get a good apple crop. That's it. Questions?